All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA Western Conference Finals video. The final one, we got Game 7 on Saturday, and it did not disappoint. I want to talk about the game, what I like, what I didn't like, maybe a little bit of the finals matchup that we now know is confirmed, some post game stuff for both Oklahoma and the San Antonio Spurs, and yeah, just all that stuff. And it's just so surreal that we're already here again in the NBA Finals. Feels like just yesterday I was doing my preseason predictions and all that stuff. But we're here, so if you like what I say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So, first things first, get the elephant out of the room. Um, I'll say it right off the top. The Spurs won. They won. They won this game 111 to the Oklahoma City's 103. And this, I don't want to say this was one of the greatest game sevens or even one of the greatest finals games of all time. I would like to ruminate on that a little bit more before I go out there and say some outlandish stuff. But this was a very fun game seven. And it's not just fun because the San Antonio Spurs won. It's not just fun because, the team that everybody hates in Oklahoma lost. It's fun because good basketball was played. There wasn't a lot of missed calls. There wasn't a lot of favoritism of the refs. It was good, honest basketball, and the better team won. And I think Oklahoma players could even admit that too, that the better team won, and the better collection of players won on that given day and in this given series. Um, let's get through my notes here. Sporadically, I'll talk about some other stuff, but this is from. I take notes. For those who don't know, I take notes on the day of the game as I'm watching it, just so I have stuff to remember, because I do make these videos, like you're listening to this one, a couple days after. Sometimes I try to make them a day after, but in this case, it's 2 days after, or a full day and like a day and a half for you guys. So, yeah, let's get through these notes. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, this is going to be a theme, and we'll get back to this theme in a little bit, but they've been dealing with a ton of injuries, and um, it wasn't a great run for them overall in this defense of their championship, and now there'll be a new champion crowned. Um, they've been dealing with obviously the Jalen Williams injuries. They obviously were dealt with the Kason Wallace injury, well, not the Kason Wallace, the AJ Mitchell injury. He was playing very well for them. They dealt with some losing Dort stuff early on in the playoffs, and it all culminated into this last game of their season in Game 7, where Coach Mark Dagnall had rolled out different lineups throughout the course of this series in particular. Um, AJ Mitchell got to start one game, I believe, before he got injured, obviously. Um, Alex Caruso got a start. Jared McCain got a start. And in this game, Kason Wallace, my favorite Oklahoma City Thunder, got a start as well. He ended up playing halfway decently okay. Was probably one of the better players, to be quite honest, one of the more efficient and better players. But I wasn't surprised to see him in the starting lineup. I don't want to say the Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder were panicking necessarily. They try to find something, but as a coach, you do the responsible thing and you just try to roll something out there that can provide something and stave off this Spurs team that is essentially fully healthy. Um, and you tried it with different combinations, gave different players different looks, especially in this game. There were a bunch of different lineup combinations. There was a bunch of different defense being played by Oklahoma, and Coach Mark Dagnall, for what it's worth, exhausted everything that he could. I always talk about players, emptying the clip, like going out there and just trying everything they can to win a game and score as many points, or rebound as well as they can, or play make as well as they can, or play defense as well as they can. Um, if you want the coach's variation of that, it was this game where Mark Dagnall just tried everything that he could. This is like plan after D. It's deep into the alphabet. um, it was a game in which you needed something, and Kason Wallace at least gave you something. He was the second leading scorer on this team in 36 minutes. He had 17 points, 5 of 9 for 3, 6 of 10 from field goal, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, only 2 personal fouls. one block. It was a good game for Kason. The Spurs got it started early, however. They had no fear coming into this hostile environment. And I had said in my first video about this series, when the Spurs won game one, this is going to be a pinnacle moment in which, um, if when they won that game one, they can look back on this tape in game one and say, we've won here before. It's not like we've never won here before. We did it in game one. We shocked the world. Let's shock the world again. And they came into this, the Paycom Center, I believe it's called, with no fear. And they just went out there, played the way they wanted to play. The game was never dictated to them. They dictated the game from jump. They dictated every other player on Oklahoma except Shea. And Shea's the MVP, so he's the only outlier to this whole thing. Um, OKC, however, had it going on the defensive end early, tried to control the game that way. It worked a little bit till it didn't work, and then that's when the wheels started turning for Coach Mark Dagnall, and he started to maybe shake some things up, take a couple timeouts that were not that were, we'll say, odd for him. We'll say out of place, for lack of a better term. Um, he was trying to manage the game that way because when the Oklahoma City defense started to fall apart, the only way to get the Spurs to stop scoring was to call a timeout and just throw your hands up and just go into the huddle and try to rally the guys again. Um, and that's what happened. And we'll get to the timeouts and everything here in a minute. Um, Dylan Harper, this game, man, oh man, middle right of your screen with the Spurs logo in the back on the right side. Dylan Harper, man. Um, I wasn't. I want to say I wasn't impressed. I wasn't like blown away like some people were with Dylan Harper in the regular season. I think some of his minutes were like moved around a little bit. He had his slumps and his highs as a rookie. I thought maybe he should have gotten a little more rookie of the year buzz, but at the end of the day, it came between it was VJ and Dylan, and then Khan and Cooper in different levels. Um, and I wasn't supremely impressed with Dylan Harper as a rookie in the regular season, and very rarely, normally, let me walk it back here. Normally, a rookie goes to a bad team, so they're not going to make the playoffs. So if you have a bad regular season or just an okay regular season as a rookie, they're like, okay, cool. Next player, next draft, we'll worry about you in year two. But in Dylan's case, he got to go to a really good team in the Spurs, and that we'll say mediocre or just okay enough regular season for Dylan was enough to solidify his playing time and solidify his role to go into these playoffs and really prove himself. And when I say I've never been so impressed with such a young player on the biggest stages, on the biggest stages, what the biggest stage up until you're a seasoned player is like the first round of the playoffs, and then you get to the second round, and then you get to the conference final. So it was always going a level up. And Dylan, at times, did over dribble the ball, did make some stupid decisions, but those are rookie mistakes. But when you put the ball in his hand and you asked him to score this series, he could do it. He could do it, and he wouldn't always get the foul call either. He took zero free throws this game. I would love to know how many free throws he took for the series, but he was he was taking tough fall away shots. He was going up and under the rim. He was pump faking, and as I was watching him, especially in this game, because he took over at a point in this game, and really padded the Spurs' lead enough to make them comfortable enough and enough to keep it out of the grasp of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, Dylan Harper's footwork, it reminded me of Dwayne Wade. And I know that might be kind of blasphemous to say, but the footwork that Dylan Harper has and the knowledge to know to fake, not just up fake, but fake a pass, fake a jumper, just get the defender in the air. When this Oklahoma City Thunder team, regardless of who's out there, is a very big team. They're very either stout or very tall. It's either one or the other or both in combination. And Dylan being one of the smaller players out there, along with De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, had to find ways to make their life easier and make the shot easier. Fakes, pass fakes, getting second chance opportunities. I think Stephon, it was this game where he had an attempted putback, it didn't go in, but he had an attempted putback. Um, he just Dylan Harper just made his life so much easier. And when Dylan Harper's life is easier, that makes Devin Vassell's life easier. That makes Victor Wembanyama's life easier. That makes Julian Champagne's life easier. That makes, you know, Luke Cornett's life easier. It just provides something. And, you know, I want to be very positive in this video, but also, I'll say this, I think it's all kumbaya and all like, we're going to the finals. It doesn't matter, the team's fine. When I look at this team 5 years from now, I said this from Jump Street. De'Aaron Fox is going to be on this team, unfortunately. He's a great vet right now. He's a great leader of this team, or one of the leaders of this team. But man, I can't wait till Dylan Harper gets that full-time starter spot. Oh man, Castle and Harper in the backcourt with Victor at the five. Oh, and Devin Vassell. Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. Um, an interesting wrinkle that I don't know if the Oklahoma City Thunder employed a lot, or at least purposefully. It was sort of just like a gut reaction or like a split second reaction sometimes. But you could tell they were told by somebody on the coaching staff or Coach Mark Dagnall himself um, to swarm Vic on the rebounds. Because when Vic can't get the rebounds, he becomes a little less effective. And I've noticed when Vic can't get like consistent rebounds, he tries to use his length, which is a smart thing to do. But he's doing it with like one hand, or he's doing it with like he's trying to like pass it out backwards, and they were just trying to make Vic's life harder on the glass, so he didn't get these easy buckets. And Vic didn't get a lot of easy buckets this game, even though there was a dunk on Chet Holmgren, which was thunderous and purposeful. Victor only had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 1 steal, um, 1 offensive board. So that tells you the story right there that they were swarming him on the offensive boards as well, not just the defensive boards. Um, and he had 5 fouls, and those 5 fouls are very important. Just keep that in mind as well. Um, and let's see, he was 3 of 5 from three. I don't think did Vic have a bomb this game? Did he have a deep three? I don't think he did. I think he just had a couple wide open ones. Not wide open, but like somebody was closing out and he was already standing there. It was a kick out. And 7-15 from field goal. It was very interesting to see Oklahoma swarm Vic like that, and I wonder if the Knicks will try to do something similar in the finals because they do have a lot of bigger bodies. They have OG, they have longer and bigger bodies. OG, Mikal. It'd be interesting to see if they try to do that. Um, Continuing on with like the rebounding side of things and like them guarding Vic, the refs were calling the holding, what I dubbed the Hartenstein hold, that Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, almost all the Oklahoma City Thunder players were trying to do Vic. They finally started calling it a little bit more. There were a couple lapses there where like maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder players thought they could get away with it, and the refs saw it and they're like, no, that's a hold, foul, other way, going Oklahoma, going Spurs um, to inbound. Um, this is where the timeouts come back into play for Coach Mark Dagnall. And I have in my notes right here, OKC can't stop the bleeding unless it's a timeout. And what began to happen was Isaiah Hartenstein didn't have a great game. 7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 offensive boards, 3 defensive rebounds, 2 turnovers, 1 steal. Um, it became very hard for them to stop the shooters for San Antonio. It became very hard for them to stop Dylan Harper getting downhill, De'Aaron Fox hitting the mid-range, Victor Wembanyama tried a couple fallaways in this game. They didn't really go, but he had a couple good putbacks. He had a couple easy ones, and Oklahoma just couldn't stop it. And the main problem is why they couldn't stop it, because the one person that could probably guard Wemby didn't want any part of this. And it's taken me 14 minutes in the video to mention his name, but Chet Holmgren, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 fouls, 33 minutes. He couldn't play in this game. He could not play in this game. He couldn't play offensively. He couldn't play defensively. And that becomes a very big problem when Jalen Williams is out, when AJ Mitchell is out, when a lot of this peripheral scoring is out that is usually there to help cushion Shai Gilgeous-Alexander having to go really crazy, even though him going crazy looks very simple. It's not. Shai in this game, the number one player, without. Let me tell you what he did first. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, number one player, 35 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 turnovers, 3 steals, 1 block, 1 personal foul, and 205 from three, 12 of 21 from field goal, 43 minutes. This is your number one player, right? That's what you expect from your number one player. Just trying to win the game, any means necessary. The number two, right? No Jalen Williams. Um, you turn to the player who you're paying the second most next season, who's on a new contract this coming season. You turn to Chet Holmgren, if you're the coach, and you say, Chet, we need you to do something now. We need you to do something. And he doesn't do anything. Um, we'll circle back to this conversation in a bit more detail. And when we talk about what's next for Oklahoma, which I didn't think I'd be saying, but we'll talk about what's next for Oklahoma. But you turn to Chet. He was a top pick in his draft. And you say, Chet, you are the best equipped person to guard Wemby. Even if you're not going to score this whole game, you need to at least play defense. Couldn't do that either. Kason Wallace, like I mentioned earlier, ended up being the number two scorer for this team on this given day. Chet just didn't, just wasn't there. And we'll circle back to Chet here in a minute, but um, I saw a tweet from a YouTuber I've been watching for a very long time, Dom2K. And he had a tweet at the beginning of this series, after game one or during game one, where it was like, Chet, when Chet isn't, well, I'm paraphrasing here, but Chet doesn't want to play Wemby's game in the sense of like the mental game, you know? Um, but he's going to have to, and I don't think he wants to. And that became so true as we're getting to halftime here in my notes. That became so true for Chet because Chet, I've said this before, and whenever they've matched up in the regular season or whatever, Chet plays basketball because he's tall and he's good at it. There's no other reason for Chet to do anything in life except play basketball because he's tall and he's good at it. He's been good enough his whole life to get to this level, you know, just be tall and shoot threes. And there was some finesse to his game and some like, oh wow to his game, but that guy wasn't here this game. Um, and Chet is just Chet. He's tall and he plays basketball. Wemby is tall and wants to play basketball and wants to be better, and will go to psychotic lengths to do such things. And there was a clip floating around. I swear I'm going to get past this point, but there was a clip floating around before this series where it was like an under 18 event, and it was like France versus Team USA, right? And Chet and Wemby are around the same age, so they're playing in this tournament. And Chet won the game. Chet got tournament MVP, um, and Wemby got like number two, right, or number three. And this is like when they're like 16, 17 years old. Like this is before Chet went to college. This is before like Victor was on like um, his um, his main team that he played for before he was in the NBA. And you can see Wemby obviously just so blatantly just upset and like, no, this can't be happening. You know, you can see he's like distressed. He's like actually having like an adverse reaction to this losing, and keep those emotions in mind for the latter half of this video. But you could see he took that personally. And I know that's like sort of the corny thing to say from like the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary and stuff, but like you can see Wemby took that personally, and he's held on to that for God knows like 8 years, 10 years, you know. And it's like, oh my God, this guy, something is wrong with Wemby, right? And I think every great player has something wrong with them in the best way possible. You know, their pathology is something that, you know, regular people like you and me just don't understand because they just want to win and it drives them. And that's the greatest players. And, you know, to Shea's credit as well, you know, as the reigning MVP, there has to be something wrong with you, you know, to just want to be that consistent and want to be that good, you know. But in this scenario, you know, minus the Wemby and Shea matchup, you know, because it's very different because Shea's a guard and Wemby's a center, but they still match up in name alone. But when you look at the actual matchup of who could guard who, Chet and Wemby, Chet just isn't there. He just isn't there. And somebody said, and I love this paraphrase, whenever Chet caught the ball, especially we'll get to the third quarter, whenever Chet caught the ball, and he was just standing there like, and Wemby was like standing behind, like standing in front of him, like a ways away, but standing in front of him. you could just see the piss going down Chet's leg, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing I've heard all weekend. Somebody said you can actively see him pissing himself, and I thought, oh, that's so right. That's so right. And yeah, that's my ramble about Chet and Wimby, but we'll get back to that. SGA Shea had it going in the second. Definitely the best player in that half. And I don't think this is controversial at all. I think Shea was still the best player on the court in this game. Wemby obviously was like the all around best player, obviously on defense and the other stuff. But like just watching and just a guy carrying his team, and you could say to the credit. I'm not trying to discredit what the Spurs did with the depth they have, but Oklahoma was known for their depth as well, and in this moment in this game, it wasn't there. So Shea had to be the guy, and he rose to the occasion, and he left everything on the table. You know, um, and I think he was the best player in this game, and definitely in that first half. But um, the Spurs started halting all the Oklahoma City Thunder runs with good defense or making their own shots. So if Oklahoma scored, the Spurs would try to get one back or get a three or match it or get to the free throw line or just stop or just full stop their run as a team. Because there were some guys for this Oklahoma City Thunder team like losing Dort had 1-3, made it. Jalen Williams, Jayln Williams, number 6, had 11. Alex Caruso had 12. Kenrich Williams had 2. Jared McCain had 12. Uh, it, it, Isaiah Joe didn't play this game. Andrew and Aaron Wiggins didn't play this game. And they they were there, but it just wasn't enough. And you could tell when I want to say Shea was shook, but when the Spurs actually started stopping Shea, you could see the whole team just sort of like, I don't want to say collapse, but like just try to have this blind confidence that like we're just gonna keep going down here and keep taking shots. If they go in, we don't care. If they go out, we don't care. Um, and they just kept going with that mindset into the second half and into the third quarter. And um, this is when we get back to Coach Mark Dagnall, and I say he was panicking a little bit because he took a lot of timeouts in that first half. And then in the second half, you we saw Oklahoma show a bit more panic. They tweaked their entire starting lineup. Um, we'll say a majority of their starting lineup. They put Alex Crusoe and Jalen Williams in to start the game. I believe it was Shea, Luzang, um, Kason Wallace, Alex Crusoe. Wait, no, it was no. It was Shea, Luzang, um, Alex Crusoe, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and whoever else um, in that starting lineup to start the half. And I'm not saying that you can't do that as a coach, but that just shows me that you're trying to just grasp onto whatever because that was the unit that sort of closed the first half, and he was like, let's just roll it out there again. We're not gonna bring in the starters that we started the first minutes of this game. We're gonna do it with the ones that closed the first half, and it worked for a little bit, and then this is when it started to feel really real that the Spurs were gonna win because um, Dylan Harper really started cooking. Julian Champagny, second leading scorer on this team after I bashed him all series long. After I said, stop shooting the ball, go sit on the bench. And this is why I can never be a coach because I would just not believe in this guy to do this in game 7. But um, Coach Mitch Johnson did. He kept him in the starting lineup, kept his confidence up. And in the pinnacle game 7, when you needed him the most, when you needed 3-pointers, not just twos, threes, Julian Champagny had 20 points, 6 of 10 from 3, 6 for 11 from field goal. Almost sprayed all his threes. 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, only 2 fouls, um, only 1 turnover. Um, just an awakening, we'll say, for Julian Champagny, and we'll live to see. We'll get to watch if he can capture some of that in a bottle and at least be like a 15-point score for this next round, which is the finals. Really amazing stuff. And that's again, this is why I can never be a coach because I would just have never. I would have pulled Julian Champagny after game 3 and be like, "Yeah, you're gonna come sit on the bench. Let me get somebody else in here." But he did indeed play well. OKC started rotating all of their bigs and the combination of bigs. I do want to give credit to Jalen Williams, Jaylin, um, Jaylin Williams, number six, for playing as well as you probably could have for the amount of minutes and the pressure that was on him. Because, like I said, Chet Holmgren didn't have it going. Isaiah Hartenstein was only minimally helpful, but like you could tell, like this just wasn't a game for Isaiah Hartenstein. Jalen Williams came in, kind of picked up a little bit of the scoring, picked up a lot of the rebounding, 10 rebounds. He was the leading rebounder on this team this game. Um, he was out there at some point with a four guard lineup. And the four guards, I believe, were Shea, Kason, Alex, and Jared McCain. Or Losing Dort was out there too, maybe. Or Alex Crusoe. They just ran a four guard lineup, again, trying to get something going. And I'd only seen them run the four guard um, against the Lakers. They didn't even run it against the Suns in the first round. They ran it against the Lakers a little bit and was very effective. Um, but the Spurs aren't the Lakers, and it was okay a little bit. Um, this is around the same time when Wemby started settling a little bit for like jump shots and like faders and turnarounds, and I needed him to be more aggressive, um, just a little bit, because I started to feel like this was crunch time and you could finally put him away. Um, Although, like I was mentioning earlier, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox even had a couple moments. Julian Champagny were hitting their shots. So I was just sort of more upset at Wemby for not capitalizing on the moment where he had his guys going and he could um, score more than facilitate. Um, and this is where we finally come back to the timeouts. OKC was very short on timeouts. Um, they can't use any to stop this run by the Spurs, and the Spurs got it going. No let up. And this is when you started to feel the game shift where I think maybe Oklahoma had two or one timeouts left. And that means they had to roll out there what they had to roll out there, and they could only sub in players when there was a stoppage because you know when you want to keep the one timeout for like late game in case you ever did make a comeback, which didn't happen. But um, you tried to do it with the minimal timeouts. It didn't matter. Um, Keldon Johnson, although I shit on him a lot this series as well, made a really good impact on offense. Finally, hit a couple threes, had a couple of those barrel in moments using his body, um, controlling the paint. Good stuff for him. Um, the Spurs finally did it. They matched the confidence of Oklahoma, even without Wemby, who was in this moment with five fouls. Um, and this was a little bit before the confidence really showed, but Chet had the ball on the wing, on the far side near the Spurs bench. Um, had it, was staring him down, staring Wemby down. Wemby had five fouls, so Chet could have gone at him to the paint and got Wemby a six and foul out of the game. It didn't happen. I don't remember if this was the one where he fell down because there was another one where he fell down right in front of Wemby. I don't remember if he kicked it out. There were a couple moments in this game where Chet just didn't want it. He just didn't want it, and I I guess I'll say it here because there's no other point to say it because then we get to the end game, sort of the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter as well, where um, Chet, it, as much as Chet and Oklahoma throughout this whole process, even dating back to last year, where they just whenever they would match up, Chet never wanted it to be about him and Wemby. He wanted it to be about Spurs versus Oklahoma, right? And like Dom 2K said on Twitter, Victor wants to play these games. Victor thrives on this kind of stuff, and Chet just doesn't. And for Chet to be your third to fourth best player is fine. It's completely fine, right? That's okay. When you ask him to be on these nights, these are the moments, right? These are the moments where you like prepare all your players for these moments. This is make or break. He didn't show up, and I don't even want to say one bad game for Chet shouldn't define his career. This was a bad series. This was a series in which you could have taken it to Wemby. You could have shoved it in his face. If he was going to shove it in your face, you needed to shove it back in his face. And he didn't do that. And I would let me preface everything I'm about to say, and then obviously for my later conversation about what's next for the Oklahoma City Thunder with, I think they should run it back. I think in sports, and not just in basketball, winning a championship is about 50 to 60% luck. The other percents are coaching, matchups, injuries, whatever, outside factors, right? It's a lot of luck. And the Oklahoma City Thunder just ran out of luck, and they ran out of people, and they ran out of time at some points. Um, they just ran out of everything. And what could have equalized everything was the mentality, right? Was the we're the champs, we're not going to go out like this, right? I think a couple people in Oklahoma had that. Shea had that, Kason Wallace had that, Jalen Williams had that, Alex Caruso had that, Jared McCain had that. Not saying the guys I didn't mention did have it, but I at least saw it in this game seven where they just didn't want to go home like this. They could go home in the finals injured, but they did not want to go home on the Western Conference Finals on their home floor. Chet just never looked like he was engaged with it. There were a couple moments throughout the series where he looked a little more engaged, but in these moments, in these critical moments, it didn't look like it. It just didn't. Um, that being said, um, Wemby checks out because he has 5 fouls. Insert Luke Cornett. And this is a critical time. This isn't as bad as it is for the Nuggets when Jokic goes out, but it is not great when Wemby checks out for the Spurs and the Spurs sort of have to run a different sort of defense with Luke Cornett out there or Bismack Biyombo, whoever the hell is out there at that certain time. Um, and I wasn't worried necessarily, but I was just like, okay, let's see. Are they going to keep Wemby on the bench for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe just a minute? Um, it turned out to just be a minute. And the minute is all Luke Cornett needed to make an impact. Um, Bottom right of your screen, you can see um, a huge block by Luke Cornett on Isaiah Hartenstein. In the moment, it did look like a foul, and I watched the replay. I was like, "That's not a foul. This is just playoff basketball." Um, it was a clean block, all ball, maybe a little bit of like right arm, you know, um, to the body, to the other arm of the offensive player, but it was a great block and it hyped everybody up. It was astonishing. Um, then that hyped up Julian Champagny, who kept hitting his shots. We get back to Chet with Chet just not being there. He couldn't even get positioning on a post up. He couldn't get a rebound in crunch time. He couldn't do anything in these moments. Um, and Then Oklahoma makes their last stand with a defensive moment. But the best thing Mitch Johnson has done all series for the Spurs is he ran up to a ref and took a timeout. He didn't wait for the ref to look at him. He ran up right in his face, was like, timeout, I got to take a timeout. And they did it, and they kept the ball. Um, and that was essentially the game right there. It wasn't even close. It was close-ish at that point, but that timeout really secured it, really let the Spurs have some breathing room. Um, the Spurs, my last note here is Spurs do it. End of the game was chaos. So many chances left on the board for OKC, and they just couldn't get it going. And the bench, I said in my notes, the bench didn't show up. The bench kind of did, but like it just wasn't enough for a closeout game, and that's unfortunate as well. Um, and yeah, and that's how the Spurs saved basketball. That is how the Spurs saved basketball. Yes, indeed. What a wonderful story, man. Um, it felt, in the end, I'll say this, it felt kind of wrong to root against Oklahoma because they were just so injured, and you always want this matchup to be healthy. You don't want any excuses from anybody um, for any of these, right? For any of these matchups, but it's sports, and that's what happens. Um, what do I want to go with this? What do I want to say next? Um, let's let's talk about the Spurs because I feel like even though I've been talking about them and I've been praising them and I've sort of been like pseudo rooting for them a little bit, um, let's talk about them and then we'll talk about what's next for Oklahoma. Um, The Spurs, man. What a group of guys. What a group. It was crazy to me because um, when I first started doing NBA draft stuff, I would watch these players' tapes, right? And one of those players that really stuck out to me many years ago, especially in his matchup versus Lonzo Ball, Kentucky versus UCLA, De'Aaron Fox. I was always rooting for De'Aaron Fox in this matchup. I thought De'Aaron Fox was the better guard, was the better player. And when De'Aaron got to Sacramento, I was like, oh God, his career's over before it even starts. And then he gets out of Sacramento after a couple of successful years. And he becomes sort of the vet that plays the most on this San Antonio Spurs team. And to see um, De'Aaron in that role was sort of jarring. And to finally see him with that cap on, with NBA Finals 2026 with the Spurs logo next to it, was sort of surreal because I remember watching this guy his time at Kentucky, um, and it's just an amazing journey that these players go on. And I didn't realize that, because people started posting pictures afterwards, that Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, they played with Patty Mills. They played with some of the old Spurs like guard, before they changed the changing of the guard there. And it's crazy how long they've been in the league. Um, for the young guys, it's crazy how, Stephon Castle, this is year two. Dylan Harper, this is year one. Carter Bryant, this is year one. Harrison Barnes finally back in the finals after 10 years. He was on the 2016 Warriors. Luke Cornett bounced around the league. Was a Celtic, was a Knick, was a bunch of other teams I think as well. Um, for Julian Shimpenny to be cut by the Sixers, just was that year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, to end up here. For Victor in particular, um, you look at a guy like Victor, and you always think that guy's so tall. He's gonna be healthy. It's never the concern of if they can play basketball because a lot of these 7 footers can. And then you have 7 footers who really want it, like Wemby. And you have 7 footers that really don't want it, like Chet. But that's another thing. He's like, is he gonna be healthy? And he dealt with those blood clots in his shoulder. I believe that was his second year. He dealt with some other stuff, some minor injuries this year, um, and he showed in those final moments, um, as the game wound down, some real emotion, and it's in the bottom middle left of your screen right there, hugging Devin Vassell. You saw real emotion and real care about the game, and I said this in my draft video that I made a couple weeks ago, or like a week ago now, that like it became a point, in sports, and particularly basketball, to just be nonchalant, to like pretend that you don't care, pretend that like this comes easy to me. I'm built for this, blase blase, right? And I won't say it became uncool to care, but it sort of became like a moment of vulnerability not to care. And for Vic to care that much, and I referenced the moment earlier when he was playing on the junior team in France and Chet was on the amateur team for Team USA and they played and they matched up. It was so heartbreaking for him just to lose that. And for Wemby to show the same emotion, win or lose, um, is incredible. And the last thing I'll say about the Spurs team and Victor is that the word floating around right now for Wemby is best player in the world. I don't think that's entirely accurate as of this moment, right? I think Wemby is far more deserving of most impactful player in the world right now. I think that's more accurate because that's gone through a couple hands. It's gone through um, LeBron, Steph, obviously both game changers in the sense of LeBron being an athletic Magic Johnson. That was like the thing that was around him early in his career and in Miami. Then you have Steph literally changing the game of basketball, and then sort of you get to guys like um, Joel Embiid and like Nikola Jokic, like these different bigs that do different things. Joel was like the prototypical like this guy is a guard in a big's body. Like he puts the ball in the basket like nobody else. And then you have Nikola Jokic, where he just passes the ball at such a higher level than we've seen before. Um, I think Victor has taken the title of most impactful player in the NBA. And because he does it defensively, he does it offensively, and we've seen it throughout the series where he does it with his leadership. And you can teach a lot of things in basketball. You really can. You can teach a lot of things. You can't teach leadership sometimes. And for Wemby to be, he's just a kid. He's 22 years old. Um, to be so in tune with himself and to be a leader of men, you know, to be a leader of men is hard. And to do it at 22 is amazing. And um, yeah, that's all I want to say about them because I'll ramble. I can ramble on forever about the Spurs team, man. I'm so happy for everybody involved in this. Even as an outside fan, I'm so happy for them. Now, move on to Oklahoma here. Um, yeah, this is not where you want to be as the reigning champs. For the eighth year in a row now, the defending champs will not be back. Even 8+ years, the defending champ will not make it back to the finals to defend their title or even win the title. Um, people were calling this a dynasty. People were calling this a team that could beat the Bulls, the primetime Bulls, that could beat the Warriors, that could beat any dynastic team. Well, here we are. They did not. They're not even a dynasty. They won one championship. So congratulations. Now the heat's really turned up, and now the pressure's really turned up, and now the fingers get pointed and the questions get asked. Um, the biggest thing is Chet. Um, what I would do is, and a lot of people are the rumors of Giannis already and trading everybody and bringing in a new team. That's an overreaction. I hope they overreact for one, but in my heart of hearts, I know they're probably going to run it back. But I hope they overreact and I hope they ruin the team. um, but for Chet in particular, well, let's say this first. Let me get this out of the way. Kason Wallace did his exit interview for the season. Kason Wallace, one of the biggest integral parts of this team, said he loves Oklahoma, but he wants to focus on getting better. And that's a polite way to say, I love Oklahoma, but if I get a bigger paycheck with a bigger role, I'm going to go take that. So that's the Kason Wallace thing out of the way. Um, Jalen Williams wasn't healthy this playoff run. You start to look at him and you say, this is now 2 years in a row that you haven't been healthy in the playoffs. The other one didn't hurt you too much because it was just a broken hand or wrist or whatever, so you could play through it. Um, this time around, though, it was a calf. It was this. It was that. You start asking questions that had, can you be healthy? Um, you start asking these internal questions of, well, now I talked about this last year as well, even when they won the championship, where now we're in this year where next year, next season, we are going to be stuffed with cash. We have to pay a lot of players, whether they are on contract or we have to get them on a new contract or the new contract activates next year. We have to think about who to keep and who's to go. If I had to make those decisions, and this is all leading up to the Chet Holmgren thing, but let me get this through first. Obviously, you're keeping Shea. Shea is not going anywhere. He's the franchise player. You keep Shea. I would love to keep, a Jared McCain, an AJ Mitchell, a Jalen Williams, right? So that's 4 players, right? Shea and those 4. It looks like Kason isn't going to be here, so that one's out of the way. Losing Dort, I don't think I need you anymore. If I'm gonna keep like Alex Caruso or Luzang, I'm probably gonna keep Alex Caruso more. So that's Shea, um, Jared McCain, Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, AJ Mitchell, Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams. So that's 6 players, right? So that means Kenrich Williams is gone. That means Luzang Dort is gone. That means Isaiah Hardenstein's probably gone, unless you want to keep him. The only reason you keep Isaiah Hardenstein is if you're still not prepared to throw Chet as a full-time 5. And this is where we get to Chet, where I wish it, if I'm Sam Presti, the GM of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I sit Chet down and I say, this was not the result we wanted for the team or for you. Right? I'm going to sit up actually in my chair right now. This is not the result we wanted for our team or for you. I want you to look me in the eyes and I want you to tell me, are you going to take this and like go hide in the corner, or are you going to take this and go try to be better in this offseason? You have to tell me right now. Because if you're not gonna be better this next season, right? Or at least tell me, at least promise me, at least tell me you're gonna try to be better, right? Saying and doing are two different things. I want you to look me in you, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that you're gonna try to be better. Because we're not gonna run away from the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to run at them, right? This is the objective as now the former champs and having won a championship. You have to prove to people it wasn't a one-time fluke. It wasn't a one-time thing, right? We have to go run at them. We have to go at them because they're going to keep coming at us. They're in the West. They're not going in. We're not switching conferences. This isn't college where like we run to a different conference or whatever, right? This is the NBA. You have to tell me, are you going to go at? I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about the Spurs. Do you want to go at them? And if he can't look me in the eyes confidently and say that he wants to do that, then I have to trade him. I have to. I have to. It's over because like if there's going to be this mental block for Chet, he can play great against every other team, but it's this one team. But that one team is in our way of a championship. I have to get rid of him, or like I have to find a solution, and the solution could be, keeping Isaiah Hartenstein, which is he was okay enough this series, but he's obviously showing his age, and he's not, Isaiah Hartenstein. You know, Isaiah Hartenstein was never that. I want Chet to be able to tell me, hey, I want to be the full time five. I want to go at Wemby, right? Or he has to tell me, hey, I want to be better, but I'm not sure it's going to be next year. We're going to have to bring another forward in and another center in to help him out, right? To just back him up a little bit, right? Because Isaiah and Chet work well together, but there aren't a million Isaiah Hartensteins out there. Only a couple. So, like, either it's that or this. And if Chet tells me he can't do this, then there's going to be the conversations of I have to pick up the phone and I have to call the Milwaukee Bucks. And I have to say, hey, you can have Chet Holmgren, you can have whoever else we might have on the books, almost all the draft capital we have. We want Giannis, and that's where the conversation starts and ends, and it ends with Chet. And I believe in a duo of Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I believe in that duo. I like that duo a lot. I like it with some peripheral pieces, some tertiary pieces, right? Like they have right now. If that means I can just get Chet for Wemby for Chet for I almost said two different names there. Chet for Giannis straight up with just picks and some salary cap filler, and I can have a team of Shea, Giannis, and Jalen Williams. I'm doing that every day of the week if I'm the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's an overreaction. I want them to run it back. I think they just got hit by the injury bug. They benefited from it last year when they won the championship when um, um, what's his name? Tyrese Halliburton went down. They benefited from it. So they were just on the receiving end this year, and I think they should run it back. But these are the conversations you need to have, and it's gonna be there's gonna be a bunch of YouTube videos. I've already seen it where like, what's next for Oklahoma? The big questions for Oklahoma, and they have these big red letters and a circle around Chet or something, like those like clickbait YouTube videos. Yeah, I just think the Thunder have a lot of questions, and if they're going to run it back, it's going to be very expensive. And if they don't blow it up this offseason, it's going to be the next one because it's going to be even more expensive. Um, yeah. Um, some notes post game. Wemby, this kid is just amazing. This guy is just amazing. The way he articulates himself, the way he talks about the game, the way he talks about his teammates, the way he talks about the fans, just embracing every moment of it. And he did an interview with NBC post game, obviously Vince, T Mac, um, Maria Taylor, Carmelo Anthony, that whole gang up there. And then he walked to the tunnel to leave, finally leave the court, and he let all the Spurs fans touch the Finals MVP trophy. Um, he was very happy. You could see like the emotions had worn off, and it was just pure happiness in that moment. But obviously, he wasn't satisfied because you want to win the real thing. But being Western Conference champs is enough. Just getting there is tough enough. You can listen to all these great players throughout NBA history and say, we just didn't break through at the right time. The Spurs, I think, broke through in the right time, and they said it on the call. It's Wemby's West now. I think that's very adept. I think that's very poignant right there. That it is now Wemby's West, and you broke through once. Can you win the championship in your third year? That'd be crazy. Wemby's just such a good guy. I could sit here and talk about that guy all day. Um, on the other side, Shea in his um, post game interview and then exit interview a day later, both said different days that he gave a lot of respect to the Spurs. Said that they were a very hard team to beat, and they just did a couple things wrong. And he took full accountability, and he also gave the Spurs a lot of props. And then he said the next day in his exit interview, he said, they had failed as a team. He had failed, even though he has the MVP for the second year in a row. Um, the if the goal was to get back to the championship and win the championship, they had failed, and it was black and white as that. Where he took accountability, and he obviously said, the obvious thing that they weren't healthy, and that was that. But I think Shea, this is where the real work starts. It's fun to be on top. It's fun to be the hunted. To people want to beat you. Now you're back with everybody else. You're hunting them, the people in front of you, because you're now, by merit, you're the second best team in the West. Now you have to go hunting again. And I think Shea being in that mentality is going to be very interesting because you see it with a lot of these players. You see it with LeBron, you see it with Kobe, you see it with Steph, you see it with Giannis, you see it with Jokic, where at different points in their careers, they've been at the mountaintop and they've been the chased and they've been the hunted. Now you're back with everybody else hunting something else, hunting another team and having to get over that hump again. And you aren't the best team, even if like the preseason predictions come out next year and they still say the Oklahoma City Thunder is the best team. You understand in your locker room that we're not the best. We need to go beat the Spurs. Um, Another thing that was said by Jalen Williams, um, number the real Jalen Williams, I'll put it that way. Well, the real Jalen Williams, please stand up. The other Jalen Williams said that like if he was healthy, they would have won this series. Like no duh guy. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Yeah. Um, I think there are some questions about Jalen Williams, but what are you gonna do? Like you were hurt. Like it's part of the game. It's part of life. I don't think you entertain the idea of trading him unless if he's injured all season next season too. Then you think about it, but not after this. It's like a back-to-back years where one was sort of unfortunate. He like broke his wrist or whatever. He sprained his wrist. That one's like a fluky injury. That could happen to anybody. It's the calf and other stuff that kind of worries me, but I'm not too worried about it right now. And yeah, I think that's it. Um, I do want to say, just in closing, about we'll do a finals preview obviously in the next couple days, but I just think it's so cool that both teams, Knicks and Spurs, now that we know the finals matchup, um, both of their star players embody their franchise. Jalen Brunson was born to play basketball for the New York Knicks. His father played basketball for the New York Knicks. He grew up in the area. It's cool that that is the guy who's piloting the ship for the Knicks. And obviously on the Spurs side, Victor Wembanyama, international player, center forward, um, generational big in the long lineage of generational bigs for the Spurs. They just embody both of these aspects beautifully. Um, Let me see here. I'm going through Twitter, looking through some stuff, seeing if I missed anything um, for either team here, Oklahoma, Spurs, or New York at this point. I don't think I missed anything. Oh, the Sacramento Kings. Shout out the Sacramento Kings. Having a disastrous 24 months where Tyrese Halliburton goes to the finals, former Sacramento Kings guard. Um, Luka Doncic, a guy you could have drafted, goes to the finals a couple years before that. And then this year, Mike Brown, ex head coach of the Kings, now head coach of the Knicks, goes to the finals. And your other ex guard that you traded recently, De'Aaron Fox, is going to the finals. Congratulations, Sacramento. um, Anything else here? I mean, what else is there to say? Um, I think there will be another video. There needs to be another video made about Oklahoma because as the reigning champs or the former reigning champs now, the ex champs, there's a lot of questions to be asked. Yeah, just this is a great game, man. This is a great game of basketball. I'm wow that Wemby dunk on Ches crazy. Um, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm just gonna keep rambling. let's see. Before I get out of here, um, the bracket, how we got here. The Spurs played the Blazers in round one, won that. The Spurs played the Timberwolves round two, won that. And they played the Thunder in the conference finals and won that 4-3. They won the other series 4-2, and they won the first series 4-1. And then on the Knicks side, the Knicks beat the Hawks 4-2 to advance to the second round. They beat the Sixers in a sweep 4-0. They beat the Cavs 4-0, and now they're in the finals. And these two teams match up, and we will have a new champion for the eighth or ninth year in a row. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. The end screen should be playing right now. Check out the video on the left. Check out the playlist on the right. If you click my icon right in the middle, it'll subscribe will pop up, and you can subscribe with ease. Like and comment as well. And I will see you guys next time for a finals preview of 2026.